Hello, my name is Ian Boyd and I was the writer for Laps. I also played Marcus in the film.
Hello, my name is Oscar. I'm the director and cinematographer of Laps.
So the idea for Laps started when Oscar and I were racking our brains trying to, figure out what the new hit film we were going to make was going to be. And Oscar had the idea he wanted to have me grow my beard out again and tap me up with some fake tattoos.
What are you doing, Ian?
I'm making this look disheveled because it was supposed to be around my neck, but somebody forgot to wrap it around their neck as a scarf. So now we're just gonna tie it around and hope for the best. But
Show us your what you got there. Tattoos?
yes, sir.
What's that about, Ian?
Tattoos. I decided to get tatted up just for the shoot. They're kind of falling off.
No, they're real.
They're real. Yeah, they're real. And I shaved my arms just for real tattoos. And the tattoo artist kind of fucked up, and they're falling off. So Laps is set in a world where these creatures, kind of monsters that are attracted to sound, overrun the world pretty much. They are able to wipe out the majority of the human race. So there's only small portions left of people that are kind of trying to rebuild.
It opens with a character named Marcus, who has been through some traumatic stuff. We cut to 5 years later when he's living his life in this society that's trying to rebuild, and he comes across something on his journey that kind of makes him have to face his past.
And we wanted to do something like that, something more, darker, grittier. Then one day at work, I had an idea for an apocalypse kind of film, kind of cliche apocalypse. Like I wanted to try something like that out. So that night I called Oscar and we talked about our ideas about it. He seemed to enjoy the idea of the apocalyptic kind of thing. He originally had a plan for a monster film to do with the tattoos, so we kind of melded those. Instead of making it a basic zombie apocalypse, we had it with these new kind of monsters that Oscar thought of.
So I had this idea for the monsters in this film, that they always left footprints everywhere they went, and when they dialed in on prey, they would go dead silent. So because I was operating the camera, unfortunately I wasn't the one as the monster, so I had to convince Ian and Cam to be my monsters.
All we wanted to know is that we wanted them to kind of be almost oily or goopy, So we just kind of doused Cam's hand with all the paint we had and fake blood and just got him to slap a tree. So then when it came time later on when we had to show their legs running,
so I requested that they wore shorts.
we're like, okay, we kind of got ourselves in a box here. We got to do the same thing as the hands. So what we did was just got paint, slathered our legs, and fake blood there too, and then just ran by the camera. So yeah, those were the monsters.
And I think it looks pretty good. It's it's all about the way the shot is framed that really makes it work, and I'm glad that they trusted me with that because it's a weird ask. So obviously this was submitted to the Moment Invitational Film Festival. We shot it on iPhone, which was kind of bold because this was something that originally we didn't have planned for the Moment Film Festival. It was something we just wanted to do, and then this came along and it felt like we might as well. So yeah, we shot it on my iPhone and we used a Moment anamorphic lens, the gold flare. I chose personally just because it gave it a bit more of a rustic Western look.
That nice lens flare. That's cool, actually. Yeah, that is pretty cool, actually.
And yeah, it was just a lot of wrapping your head around filming on iPhone, and you don't have the same luxuries you do with a camera and the same exposure and dynamic range. So you really have to play with things. I made a filter out of a piece of plastic and sprayed hairspray on it so we get a softer look. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to overcome the filming with an iPhone, but at the end of the day, it's a tool and it's just used for storytelling. So, as long as you're hitting record, it doesn't really matter.
We also once again had our friends Grady and Noah from Far North Visuals helping us out with some behind the scenes stuff. Grady shot some behind the scenes footage and helped a little with the audio and lighting, and Noah also did a lot of audio again, so big thank you to them. It was really cool. It's always nice having an extra pair of hands on set because we're only two people, and if I'm acting and Oscar's only directing, it gets complicated sometimes. Also, thank you to Jada again for makeup stuff as usual and, planning.
So I was very specific about the look of this film. I think it's one of the only films where we've really had a genre visually, and you can see it from the start, and there's a lot of untold things just visually, and obviously we always try to do this, but this is the one I think where we did it best. So that also came with a lot of planning. Ian and Cameron, we got them different costumes and really dirtied them up. And I drew each of the characters before we filmed it, so we had a good understanding of what they would look like. And I drew a couple storyboards for everything, so I didn't go in blind knowing how I was going to film it. Each costume kind of tells a little bit of a story about each character. For instance, Marcus, we gave him tattoos, and I mean, that's of course it's cool, but it's also kind of to explain the passage of time in his beard, and it makes him look a bit more like a loose cannon, a little bit more like a rugged guy, a rule breaker. He has the blanket, which obviously has a big impact on the story and is a big central point of the story. His gun has tally marks on it to signify all the different creatures and monsters that he's killed. And yeah, he always brings the blanket everywhere he goes with him, and that's representing the fact that he has it, tied to his side.
This is also the first film we made with a real gun. The last one we did was Shot Through the Heart, and that had Nerf guns, so it was a little different. So we had an airsoft rifle painted to look like a real gun. And what we did was we contacted the local authorities to let them know where we would be filming, and that would be filming with it, and that was a fake gun. And they were actually really into it. They were asking all kinds of questions. They were just really into it. So if you're ever gonna film with a gun, make sure it's fake first of all. Don't film with real guns, and call the local authorities and let them know what you're doing. They'll most likely be okay with it as long as you're prepared and they know that it's not a real gun. And if they say no, probably for a good reason, so just listen to them, okay? Thank you. One thing that I really like that we did in this film is it kind of sets it apart from our other films that we've done. We usually just kind of stick to one thing, if it's a comedy or horror or drama. But with this one, we kind of played with everything. We have some intense moments, we have some heartfelt moments, and even a little bit of some funnier moments in there. And that's something we've never really done before, so I'm excited for you guys to see that.
So filming was a little bit intense. We had about 4 days of filming, and it's, because of the way things are right now, we have to be careful because of COVID with filming, and also on top of that, everybody has jobs and everybody has something else that they have to do, so we had to work around everybody's schedules. And the only time we had to film this were 4 separate days for about 4 hours each, which kind of got a little bit stressful here and there, and doing some shots and then going into editing and realizing we're gonna have to reshoot it, and then seeing some things where we won't have that chance again. We have to use the shot that we had.
I also during editing, I came in partway through when Oscar was doing part of the first draft, and I watched over some of it, and I actually got chills, which was weird. Even though I already knew it was happening and had already seen it, I was there acting the scene out. It was just a weird feeling that I got, it was really cool though. I don't know, just saw something play out, and I was like, wow.
Describe the shoot so far. How's it going?
So far, so good. Not a lot of talking or dialogue yet, so a lot of just moving around and trying to act scared of something we don't even know what they're gonna look like yet.
So yeah, we had a pretty big cast this time around. We worked with a lot of people, and of course safely because of COVID. I'm really proud of everybody that worked on this and the amount of passion that they put into it, because none of this would have been possible if it wasn't for them. It would just be me and Ian trying to make this, and it wouldn't be at the scale that it is now if it isn't for them. So of course we thank them for all of this.
This is also the first film that we shot with a child. We'd never done that before, and I understand why they say not to shoot with children or animals. It's kind of difficult trying to direct someone who doesn't really understand what you want them to do.
Action, go for it.
And quite frankly doesn't want to do what you want them to do, really. So we had some tricks to do that. With the scene where I give her the blanket, it's actually, she was supposed to grab it and hug it and hold it, but she didn't want to do that. So every time I gave her the blanket over and over again, she would just grab it and throw it back in my face, which was understandable. It was a burnt up and dirty blanket, so we understand why she did that. But what we did to work around that was I had a marshmallow in my hand, and I put it behind the blanket. So when I gave her the blanket, we did one take of it, and that's the one we used, where you see her kind of grab the blanket and kind of almost put it in her mouth. What she's actually doing is reaching for the marshmallow in my hand behind the blanket and just kind of trying to eat that out of my hand. But it turned out well, and we used the takes, so no complaints here. We also had Liam, who played Caleb, my little brother in the film, who was insanely... I was so impressed with him. He was great at acting. He even got a couple tears out, which is something that I can't do. And even off camera, behind the scenes, whenever we needed a light or moved or audio for some parts, and Oscar and I were kind of busy doing something, he would jump in there and just do it, which was incredible to see. It was really fun, and he's a great kid, and he's got a bright future ahead of him. So, yeah.
I'm really proud of this story. It's probably one of the best we've told, and I mean, that really just shows that you don't need a nice camera to really tell a story. It's
All in all, this is one of my favorite films to make. I don't know if Oscar agrees, but I had a lot of fun doing it, and I hope to make better ones in the future. I think we can only go up from here, so I'm excited for the future.
I'm very impressed with how good the storytelling is in this. It's probably some of our best work story-wise, and I'm honestly very excited to share it with you.